What's going on, everybody? Back at it again with another video. This time we're going to dive into a little bit of FIFA. Now, if you guys remember back in NBA Live, Michael Jordan was missing, then he came back, missing, then he came back, missing, then he came back, so forth. Well, the same thing is with David Beckham. He's not been in the game, so FIFA knows for a fact we have to approach David Beckham. You get what I'm saying? If that makes sense. We have to approach David Beckham and make him an agreement to be inside of our game so we can use his likeness. Now, the thing is, they know David Beckham. Since he's retired, it might be obvious or something out there that lets them know he's not in the agreement with the FIFA or the FIFA union, and they can't use his likeness. So they have to approach them off, into a separate agreement and deal, like they did Michael Jordan, like they do the legends, because technically a FIFA union should incorporate all the FIFA players, right? Technically not, when they're from another country. Wait, Trail, what do you mean? So not everybody's included? Not really. Which is why I can't pronounce his last name, but I believe his first name is Zoltan. And then you have the other guy, Bale. They're both having issues with this because they were like, man, that's a pretty good deal. I wish I could broker that type of deal. Only to find out they have brokered that type of deal without their knowledge. And you can understand something which makes you pretty angry when you find out, hey, wait a minute. Are you serious? I'm in the game without my knowledge? How is that possible? Well, you'd expect the company to do its ins and outs and look into these things, but EA didn't. So, read along with me while we go into Zoltan's response. Who gave FIFA EA Sports permission to use my name and face at FIFA Pro? I'm not aware to be a member of FIFA Pro, and if I am, I was put on there without any real knowledge through some weird maneuver. And for sure, I never allowed FIFA Pro to make money using it. Somebody is making profit on my name and face without any agreement all these years. Time to investigate. Now, if you're remembering, this is something that a big company would have to do. They'd have to look into these things. They'd have to know who was under these exact rules. Like, hey, who can I use? Who can I go to? Like, they knew Michael Jordan, but hey, wouldn't it be obvious that, different countries have different rules for different things? America's different than Brazil, and Brazil is different than America, which, if you understand, you can't really use a lot of teams in FIFA. From what I understand, you can't use Brazil. So where would the confusion come from with them not using a Brazil team or not using a certain player, and then come to the fact where they knew they couldn't use Brazil, but they didn't know they couldn't use Zoltan? Well, it comes from them doing exactly what he said. Some weird maneuver, or flat out lying about it. Now, let's get into the next part of this. Bale also came out and said the exact same thing. I have no idea where these players are from, but I wish I would have gotten more information. Bale says the exact same things. How? Which is strange, because they have no idea this has happened. Now, let's get into how EA Sports responded. EA Sports makes it very clear. This isn't our fight. Basically saying, hey, this has nothing to do with us. This is between you and FIFA Pro or the FIFA Union. It has nothing to do with us. Well, basically they're saying we shouldn't be to blame for this. You shouldn't come after us because we didn't do our due diligence. We didn't look into everything and try to make sure that we could use your name and likeness. We basically went off something somebody told us. Now, the strange part is, earlier this year, all EA Sports had to do was incorporate a couple of players into a lawsuit that hit them down the road earlier this year. They're just paying. Oh, my mic clicked out. Sorry about that, guy. But they're just paying for it now, which means that this battle had to be going on for a longer time than it was, which means they knew, because we didn't even have any clear-cut information about this going on. Maybe because we don't pay attention to it, or maybe not. But it's on like video game sites. EA got sued by, I had to get the number right, 450 players for $6.5 million. Which is roughly for every player like 140K if you do the math on that. Now, what's strange is you knew those players came at you for using their likeness without their consent. So what made you think Zoltan and Bale wouldn't come at you? Now, EA Sports had to pay that. The court agreed you have to pay that because you use their likeness without their consent, and you have to pay them to use their likeness. So they basically gave them a lump sum. Now, let me ask you a generalized question. If you knew that, that means when you tell Zoltan and Bale, oh, this has nothing to do with us, we never knew anything like that was going on, they're lying. Because they got sued for it previously and they paid for it previously. Which basically means EA has a habit of doing what? Voila, you guessed it. Lying to courts. Which basically means they've been lying this whole time without a shadow of a doubt to people who can make them pay out money. What do you think they're doing to the consumer about DDA? This whole video, which you may not have made it this far, you might have made it this far. But let's be totally honest. In the end of the day, EA lied about using players' likenesses that they knew were not included in the license or were not in the union. So what do you think they would do when it comes to making money? As long as they can make money, they don't care, which is the perfect example of why I believe DDA isn't a game and they just lie about it just to keep selling the game. At the end of the day, I don't know how to debate this or how to argue this, but it gives proof that EA has lied in the past and now about what they've done so far. So if they'll lie and pay $6.5 million to 450 players who they thought would never find out they were using their likeness, what do you think they'll do to the community when they know DDA is in the game and they think we'll never find out? But I've already talked your head off so far. You guys have a good one. Catch you next time.